The Nike Vomero Plus versus the Nike Vomero 18, the brand's two max cushion trainers. How do you choose which one is right for you? Sometimes when I put these versus videos together, I'm very surprised. Generally, I do all the specs and the ride profiles in the initial reviews, and I don't put them together until I create the assets for these versus videos. And often when I come into them, I have a good sense of each shoe, and I know how they feel on foot, but when I look at the specs side by side, that's where the surprises come from. And one of the biggest surprises I've had recently are these two shoes, the Nike Vomero Plus and the Nike Vomero 18. On foot, these two shoes feel extremely different, but on specs, on paper, they're actually a lot more similar than I thought they were, and I would not have guessed that from how these two shoes feel on foot. And as always with my versus videos, let's start with the specs. Now this is where the surprises come from. The stack heights of these two shoes, according to Nike's official specs, are very similar, but the Vomero 18 actually comes out higher at 46.36, where the Vomero Plus is only 45.35. Only 45.35. That's kind of the crazy max cushion world that we're in 2025. But looking at the profile of these two shoes, as you can see, the Vomero Plus looks like there's much more foam there. Some of that is very optical, given that there's a lot more foam in that shoe built up around the foot. As I talked about in my review for the Vomero Plus, link in the description, there is a bucket seat or a bathtub built up around the midfoot and especially the heel, where the foam is actually going up and cradling the heel. The Vomero 18 doesn't really have that. There's a little bit of a bathtub in the heel, but not very much. So visually, that's why the Vomero Plus looks like there's so much foam. The other big change here is the geometry. The geometry of the Vomero Plus is, I would call, a very aggressive forefoot rocker. It's actually very much like the Alphafly 3, where the Vomero 18 is a much more traditional mild rocker, much more like a Pegasus. So visually, that also makes the foam look very different. But that geometry actually does make a huge difference when you run in these two shoes, and that's one of the things that really sets these two shoes apart, as well as the midsole construction. In the Vomero Plus, you have a full midsole, one-piece midsole of ZoomX foam, whereas in the Vomero 18, you have a top layer of ZoomX and a bottom layer of ReactX. Now, in the Vomero 18, there is actually more ZoomX foam in that shoe than there is ReactX, as you can see here from the profile. If you cut the heel off, this is what it would look like. There is a deep core of ZoomX foam in that shoe, and the ReactX foam is really just sort of a container that contains how that foam actually works, giving a very different ride underfoot. And it's those geometry differences and the midsole makeup differences that actually contribute to the different ride profiles between these two shoes. The Vomero Plus is what I would call resilient. There is actually a lot of resilience and performance in the Vomero Plus, much more than I expected, where the Vomero 18 is very plush, very protective, very comfortable, but it doesn't quite have the same energetic feel off the toe like the Vomero Plus does. The other difference you will notice is the weight. The Vomero Plus at 281 grams, as you can see in my pair that Nike sent me, it's a little lower than that. Same with the Vomero 18 at 298. The pair I actually got from Nike is a little bit lower than that. The Vomero Plus is lighter on foot. You do notice that. Some of it is the more energetic foam, but it is the lighter shoe. And moving to the outsole and contact patch of these two shoes, this is where the biggest surprise was for me. I did not expect the dimensions of these two shoes to essentially be the same. I'm measuring with a ruler by eye, so there is a little bit of a tolerance here. So essentially these two shoes are the same dimensions. On foot, I will say they do not feel like they're the same dimensions. The Vomero 18 feels like there is more width underfoot. Some of that is the ReactX, which is essentially the foam you're running on. All the exposed foam on the Vomero 18 is actually ReactX. ReactX is a much more absorbent, protective foam than ZoomX, where on the Vomero Plus, there is actually very little or almost no exposed foam on that outsole. There's full rubber coverage with waffles on that. It's a great outsole, actually. It's one of Nike's best outsoles on the Vomero Plus. And you do notice the difference. The grip in the Vomero Plus is very good. It's a very smooth shoe. It's very compliant. I talked about in my review that the outer ring, the white ring of rubber versus the inner ring, feels like there's slightly different compounds, so you do get a feel difference there. Overall, it's just an outstanding outsole. Whereas on the Vomero 18, you have all of these different pieces of rubber and this different pattern on there that leaves a lot of exposed foam. It also works very well. I've had absolutely no problem with it, but the feel of the Vomero Plus is just much smoother, more nimble, and much nicer underfoot than the Vomero 18. Though I would say the Vomero 18 feels much more like a traditional trainer than the Vomero Plus does. Starting with the uppers of these two shoes, they're very, very different. In the Vomero Plus, we actually have a 2-layer outsole. There's a sock-like booty, soft material inside, and then on the outside, there's a very fine engineered mesh that doesn't stretch and really contains everything in the foot. This upper feels more compliant to the foot. It feels like there's less padding in this upper, and it gives you more of a performance fit. It gives a better lockdown overall. You just feel more secure in the Vomero Plus. Whereas in the Vomero 18, it's a much more traditional engineered mesh upper. There's a lot more padding. It feels like there's a lot more padding. There's a lot more focus on comfort in this shoe. The ankle collar and Achilles flare in the Vomero 18 are much more built up. There's more foam in them. There's a deeper pocket for the heel in the Achilles flare in this shoe. The tongue is shared between these two shoes. It feels like it's the same very puffy tongue. That does give you a lot of lace bite protection in the Vomero Plus, and it just complements the overall sort of plushness and cushiness of the Vomero 18. I will say that since the Vomero 18 is a single layer engineered mesh, it is more breathable. Here in hot Taipei summer temperatures, I will say that the Vomero Plus upper definitely doesn't breathe as well as the Vomero 18 upper. However, the Vomero Plus upper holds on to less moisture. So if you're running in the rain or you're sweating and your shoes are just getting sweat all over them, which is very frequent for me here in Taipei, the Vomero Plus upper I think performs better. The upper on the Vomero 18 actually holds on to moisture much more. So if you're running in rain or you're sweating a lot into the shoe, this will hold on to moisture much more and get heavier, whereas the Vomero Plus actually will shed that much better. Moving to sizing and fit, I'm going to say that I actually find the Vomero Plus to be a slightly more narrow and tighter fit. Some of that is the dual layer upper construction. It's not that it's any more restrictive, it just feels like it's wrapping around your foot better. Again, this feels like a more performance-oriented upper. Whereas in the Vomero 18, the upper is very comfortable around the foot, and that's the difference. The Vomero 18 upper is really focused around comfort. This is meant to be an all-around trainer, where this is meant to be more of a performance trainer that can do all-around running. And you definitely notice that in how these two shoes fit. Now, I went true to size in both of these. These are both US men's size 9, and I'm going to say that they fit very similar. The upper in the Vomero 18, because it stretches more, I think this will wrap around and be softer on the foot, but the upper in the Vomero Plus actually I think is naturally more compliant to the foot and gives overall a better lockdown. As far as width of these two shoes, I actually thought the Vomero Plus was narrower, but it turns out I don't think they are. I think these shoes are built on the same last. I actually think they're the same width. It's just, again, the upper in the Vomero Plus is more performance oriented and gives you a better lockdown, whereas the upper in the Vomero 18 is more plush, it's more cushion, it's more focused around comfort. The other big surprise that I actually didn't know is that both these shoes come in a wide model. I did not expect the Vomero Plus to come in a wide. So if you do have a wide foot, you do have a wide option here. I'm going to say that if you have a foot that's kind of borderline wide, I think either one of these are going to be fine to fit your foot into. I think because this single piece engineered mesh upper on the Vomero 18 just is a little bit more comfort oriented, you're going to have a more comfortable fit in this shoe. And if you want a similar fit in the Vomero Plus as you have in the Vomero 18, you may have to go up half a size in this shoe. But otherwise, for most runners, I think true to size will be fine in both of these. Before I get into the ride of these two shoes, let's just quickly review Nike's training matrix and tiers. The Pegasus and Vomero lines are completely fleshed out now. We've seen all 6 of these models. The Vomero Premium will be launching soon. The Icon layer is the standard model. That's what the Vomero 18 is, the Peg 41. The Plus tier is the performance tier. That's the Peg Plus and the Vomero Plus. And the premium tier really is a Nike really pushing innovation and engineering and really doubling down on whatever it is that tier and line is actually doing. So in the Pegasus, it's about response, and the Vomero, it's about cushion. And both shoes represent that. I think for most runners, they're going to be interested in only the Icon or the Plus. The Premium is a great shoe. They're very fun. I really enjoyed the Peg Premium. I'm looking forward to the Vomero Premium, but it's one that I think most runners just won't need. I think if you're looking for that base model, that all-around trainer, stick with the Icon. If you're looking for more performance, particularly if you race and you're looking for something to use in a build, that's where the Plus tier will come in. And moving into the ride section, keeping in mind Nike's training tiers, that really, I think, begins to distinguish the difference between these two shoes. As I've said multiple times already in this video, the Vomero Plus has more performance in it than the Vomero 18. But everything that the Vomero 18 can do, the Vomero Plus can do. But it's going to come down to really what sort of feel you like in a shoe. And that really is going to differ between these two shoes for two reasons, as I've also pointed out. The midsole, compound, and makeup. Do you want all ZoomX, or do you want a mix of ZoomX and ReactX? And the geometry. Do you like a lot of forefoot rocker? That's the Vomero Plus. Or do you like a more traditional heel-to-toe rocker? That's the Vomero 18. And that's really going to distinguish the ride differences between these two shoes. Starting with the Vomero Plus, this shoe, again, just feels like a performance trainer with a ton of foam in it. And this is a soft foam. ZoomX foam is a soft foam. And while this isn't the most stable shoe in the world, I don't know what you would expect from a shoe that's 35-45 in a very soft performance-oriented foam. I think Nike's done a lot to build in as much stability as they can in this shoe. Again, with the bathtub or the bucket seat they have back here in the heel going into the midfoot, the width, and some of the heel flaring that they have on the lateral and medial side of this shoe. It's as good as it's going to be. Now, I think that's where this shoe's performance really comes out. If you're someone who races in an Alpha Fly, this shoe feels like it is your trainer to the Alpha Fly. The way this shoe feels in the forefoot, off the toe, the way the rocker works in the shoe feels nearly identical to an Alpha Fly 3 to me. It's uncanny how similar this shoe feels to an Alpha Fly 3 for me. And that really is the big difference between these two shoes. It is this forefoot rocker. It is the rocker profile. This shoe has a much more aggressive rocker in it. Yes, the foam is different, but the Vomero 18 is still a very cushioned, very plush shoe. You are getting more resilience out of this full bed of ZoomX foam, and you're getting that performance or that modern feel of all of this forefoot rocker. I think those two things set the Vomero Plus up to be the more performance-oriented version of the Vomero this year. Moving to the Vomero 18, as I've said multiple times in this video, this is a shoe focused around comfort. There's still a lot of performance in this shoe, but this is a shoe that's comfort first. This is meant to be your go-to base daily trainer to really do everything in. And the combination of the two foams in the shoe, ZoomX, which is again a very deep core of ZoomX, contained by ReactX, which is a much more protective absorbent foam, I think give this shoe a much more stable and neutral ride, along with the less aggressive geometry and rocker in this shoe, makes this shoe, I think, a better all-arounder just for general running. Secondly, that layer of ReactX, which again is a more protective absorbent foam, I wouldn't call it stiffer than ZoomX, but it is a denser material, gives you more effective width in the outsole and contact patch of this shoe, even though the dimensions aren't any different than the Vomero Plus, I think making this a more stable shoe. You don't have as much foam built up around the heel and the midfoot, but the stability in this shoe is coming from the flat platform of the denser foam. So this is the more stable Vomero between the Vomero 18 and the Vomero Plus, and this is the more what I would call neutral trainer between the two of them. And that's how I would describe the difference of these two shoes and who these shoes are best for. If you are a runner who is just looking for a good all-around daily trainer that you're going to do mostly easy running in, maybe use for the occasional recovery run, and maybe pick it up into some faster, steady, into maybe lower threshold paces once in a while, I think that's the Vomero 18. This is meant to be that true all-around daily trainer from Nike, the max cushion daily trainer. Whereas if you're a runner who wants to do all of that, but also wants a shoe that has more performance, maybe you race and you're looking for a shoe to add into your rotation for a race build, particularly for a half or full marathon, and that shoe is going to need to do easy running, recovery running, but also long running, and long running with race pace in it, mostly half or full marathon paces. I think the Vomero Plus is going to be the better option. I think the more performance in this shoe, the more aggressive forefoot rocker in this shoe is going to match up with super shoes much better. I think you can actually use these two shoes together. I think this becomes your base daily trainer. This becomes your performance trainer, especially if you like a lot of foam underfoot, because both these shoes are very max cushion. But otherwise, I think everything you can do in the Vomero 18, you can do in the Vomero Plus. It's just you have more performance in this shoe. Again, if I was looking for a shoe just for like long, slow distances, your LSD, weekly run, or just, again, overall daily training, I still think the Vomero 18 is the better option. I also think the Vomero 18 is going to be a better option if you want a shoe for some gym work, or a shoe just to wear casually, walk around in. This is a much more comfortable shoe to walk around in and just use for those kind of general purposes, where the Vomero Plus is, again, very performance oriented, and the aggressive forefoot rocker in this shoe makes this shoe much more run focused. You can wear this casually. I wouldn't, but I think the Vomero 18 is definitely the better casual shoe, or the better all-around trainer to do a lot of other stuff in besides just running. Another way of seeing this is with my performance matrix. So if we take the Vomero Plus and the Vomero 18 and we put them both on here, this is what you get. They're very, very similar shoes, and I'm just taking off that true easy, the slow stuff off the Vomero Plus, because I think the combination of foams and the less aggressive geometry of the Vomero 18 just make it a better shoe for easy jogs, recovery shuffles, that type of running. Again, I think a lot of people will find the Vomero Plus can do that. I just think the combination of the added performance plus the aggressive forefoot rocker in that shoe just make it not really the best option for that. The Vomero Plus just is happiest in steady into threshold running, whereas the Vomero 18 I think has a broader range from easy into threshold. I'm putting both these shoes touching max effort running, but what I really mean there is I think these are good for paces up to maybe 10K pace. Half marathon 10K for me would be the limit. Any faster than that, I don't want either one of these shoes for that. They're just too much shoe, too much foam. But for race paces for a marathoner, half marathoner, possibly into 10K paces, I think either one of these shoes are going to do fine. I think the Vomero Plus, again, is a little bit more performance and will do it just a little bit better. I do think a lot of runners will actually find that they can do the easy and recovery running in the Vomero Plus. But for me, again, I'm always going to reach for this shoe because I just think it's more stable, it's more comfortable, and the geometry is just much less aggressive than the Vomero 18 for that type of running. But either one of these shoes are great. You can't go wrong with either one of these, and it's great to see Nike have two very good max cushion training options. And the last thing I want to mention is that the Legsavingsness of both these shoes is off the chart. These are probably two of the most comfortable protective shoes for my feet and legs that I could possibly think of. The Vomero Plus is that bouncier, more resilient option. You do not feel the ground in this shoe, where the Vomero 18 still has some bounce to it, but again, it feels just a little bit more protective, just a little bit more stable. But both of them protect my legs, protect my feet, and they feel wonderful. Either shoe is going to work for those builds for a half or full marathon, particularly the later weeks where your legs are pretty beat up and you need a shoe to give your feet and legs a little extra TLC or just help you make it through that long run because your legs are tired. Both these shoes are going to be great options for that. I will be back with some further versus videos of the Vomero Plus with the A6 Mega Blast and the A6 Super Blast. Probably the Super Blast 2 initially, and then maybe next year the Super Blast 3 when that comes out. Because I do think this shoe is going to compare much more favorably with those two shoes, particularly at the performance level. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support what I do here, check out sagasurunning.com for merch or click the join button below. If neither one of those options are good for you, leave a comment, leave a like, because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.